What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Split Screen D&D, the place where we're attacking all things Dungeons & Dragons. Ooh, look at that. From both sides of the screen. My name's Tom Quinn, resident Dungeon Master here at Modern Myth.
And I'm Josh Winans, resident player character here at Modern Myth.
And we're going to be diving into this one today. We are talking about the illusion of choice. And if you are not already familiar with this phrase being coined, it's not a new one in the D&D space, I think. But if you're not familiar with it, get ready to be familiar with it. And if you are, let's get after that.
But first, hey, Internet. Man, you guys are amazing every week, every episode, and continually to astound, and I love it. So if you could hit that like button, it really helps appease the algorithm. Comment. Man, the comments are amazing. I love reading the comments. Even if I don't agree with everything, I just love reading it.
Yep.
Hit the subscribe, hit the notification, and also there's the share. Hey, if you're talking about something that you think would be interesting in your hobby group, please share it with your friends. And last, surely not least, if you would like to directly help make these episodes happen, check out us at patreon.com/modmyth.
Man, he is getting damn good. He's getting scary good. Scary good.
Scary good. All right.
No, I think let's dive into this. I actually don't know who, in the context of TTRPGs or Dungeons and Dragons, coined this phrase, but I think this is probably a good one to start by defining.
Yes,
and
please.
I guess I would define the illusion of choice, and I think this has implications on both the DM and the player side. It's pretty self-explanatory. I think most people are, but in the ways in which it might manifest might catch people off guard. I think it's effectively when any system, and like I said, we'll be framing this within the scope of 5th edition, but I think it actually applies well outside of that space. But when any system grants you what appears to be options that don't actually manifest as options.
Yep.
They manifest. Well, I shouldn't say don't manifest as options. I think in a lot of cases, this is used incorrectly, or it's a misnomer to say illusion of choice, because oftentimes, and this would kind of lead us right into it. Oftentimes, I think a finger is pointed at the character creation process, and this is generally pointed at options-heavy systems.
Which was not my first thought when people were talking about the illusion of choice, but looking into it a little bit, that does seem where people go.
I think it's I can say this. I know that at least someone else who has touched on the topic over at Taking 20, talking about their gripes with illusion of choice with Pathfinder 2e. I know Pathfinder 1e well enough that I'm not going to talk about it in detail on this show. 2E, but I do not know 2e.
Right.
But
me neither.
I have seen what he's had to say on, and there's a number of people who have spoken in this space. But I think the finger gets pointed a lot of times at any system that's handing players all of these choices, lots of feats, lots of racial abilities, lots of, all sorts of options. And so I think it's a bit of a misnomer there, because there clearly isn't an illusion of choice. There's many choices. Right. I would postulate that the illusion is that all of those choices are viable, are interesting, and are allowing a character to become more dynamic through those choices, as opposed to there are a select number of those options that are so obviously stand out from the rest that it's only natural that people who are building with any eye towards optimization, and I'm not even saying you have to be min-maxing your character, just any eye towards optimization, is going to have a really hard time not going like, ooh, well, I took this and it works so good with this, and now you're off to the races. That's where I think it starts. There's plenty I want to say on the DM side, but I actually think you and I don't necessarily see eye to eye on the character space. So
Not as much.
Yeah, I
which is
want to hear your thoughts on
And
that.
I want to say this, being from the min-maxer, that I read the guides. You know, I know all the colors. You want to go for the gold and the light blue, and fuck the red. But that being said, I don't think you can't do like. I think even the guides are like, this isn't optimal. Do whatever you want,
Right.
but this isn't optimal. I think that's really true. In the I'm talking 5e,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important. I can't really speak to other things. I think you can create whoever you want and they can be effective. Are they going to be as like if I made a fighter and I went Goliath fighter, that's a beautiful match right there.
So
Yeah, I know, right? I freaking love Goliath. But if I went, I'm going to go gnome fighter, that is not optimal.
Right.
But there's some fun things I could do with that, and I could make that character viable. Will I get that as many pluses, or will I? Maybe not. But I don't think that it's stopping you. And I think the big reason why, and you've hinted at this before, and it kind of just came to me actually, like moments before, is in 5e, the fangs of death have been chiseled down, and because of that, that opens up a lot of options. You don't have to worry. Oh, I'm not the most optimal thing, therefore I will die. Not so much. You can be suboptimal and probably survive, and still have a good time doing it.
Yeah. Okay. I will grant that. I think objectively, the fact that those types of guides can exist and that virtually everyone can look at it and be like, that is clearly the best option.
Yep.
I guess that is, in that context, the illusion will only persist so long as the player will, like, it only becomes an illusion of choice if the player is disallowing themselves to take options that are. I mean, there's also plenty of feats and abilities that people go like, I mean, I know Weapon Master's gotten really ripped on, but
no kidding. Weapon proficiencies, congratulations.
Yeah,
just like whoop-de-doo.
But the thing is I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Is if you're willing to forsake, like I said, not even min-maxing, but even optimization, and I might even go. I'm not sure what the if you were creating a hierarchy of how intent you are on having a powerful character, there has to be some step between optimized and
still pretty good,
like sub-optimized, where you're intentionally taking like if you made a character where you're
character kind of a thing.
Well, yeah. So I mean, there's something in there where you're just more interested in designing the exact character you have in your mind. And the strength of those abilities be damned. It's
but like, so let's say you take the gnome fighter, which I think there was one person who made a comment like gnome is by far his favorite race. So I don't want to say anything bad about gnomes. Gnomes are a great race. Yep. But
I'm trying to remember who that was.
Who was that? Because he like
might have been Joseph.
Top 5 races was all gnomes basically, but it was good.
Yeah, well, it was all the little folk, and actually a really insightful comment coming off of that too. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it might have been Joseph, but I'll
But
if I'm gonna rectify that, and I'm gonna drop it in the comments, or in the
do better, man.
No. I will do better.
No, I'm kidding. But like you can make up for. So if you take a gnome fighter, which may not be optimal, you can take feats and you can take ASIs and you can like hunt out, like you could still make a really bomb fighter, even if like, however, if you do chose like, you know what, I'm gonna make a gnome fighter that's highest is, I'm trying to think of like what intelligence. I can't think of a fighter that uses
making dex and strength your dump stats.
Yeah, just, basically like
intentionally trying to.
Okay, then you have clearly not chosen the right class. Like you're wanting to build something that's not a fighter, and that's I mean you can't fix stupid.
Right.
I mean,
well, I would say I think that there's interesting opportunity in there if you're doing like a roll down the line where you aren't choosing where all those scores go.
Oh, gosh,
and like maybe you're fully intent and you're just like, well, I don't have a great strength or a great dex, but I have a serviceable one and I really want to play a fighter, and it's gonna be like I'm like that Squire style, like
he's building, he's growing into
I'm gonna be a good fighter someday.
That.
I mean, like there's fun stuff you can do with it. Like I said, I can absolutely see why someone would point the finger and go, a system that has 1,000 choices, but only 200 of them are great choices.
Yeah,
I can see. I 100%
no, and I agree.
Get,
when you say feats, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of feats that I'm like, why would you ever
especially,
take that?
Feats especially, and for that, for that reason, I get 100% why people are pointing at them.
Yeah.
But it's a dirty move to turn my disgruntled nature with 5e's lethality on me. But I mean 100%. I think if ever there was a space to explore a character that isn't optimized, it's just because it's an interesting character to you and you want to be able to tell that story and see it through.
Yeah.
Maybe even making the character knowing like the odds of me dying are higher than probably many of my companions, but let's see what happens. It's 5e, no doubt. I mean, there might be other systems that would be great canvases for that, but I think especially given what I've said about the filed teeth of 5th edition, I would grant that nod that if there is an illusion, it is because it's being perpetuated by the player as they're building their character.
Yeah, and the community, because we love looking up our guides. We love knowing how 100%. Many top 5 races for classes. Like, I mean, there's so many of these things.
Well, and I think there are entire channels that have dedicated themselves to
that are great channels because I watch them and they're great.
Yeah,
but
no, I mean it's like I think it's only natural when you are handed masses of information as a human being to aggregate that information and go, I want to hierarchically sort this into things I consider to be good, working my way down. And generally speaking, especially mechanically speaking, there's really never a mechanical reason to intentionally not optimize. There's all sorts of RP reasons. There's all sorts of thematic and narrative, and there's a bunch of reasons you might want to go that direction. But so as a kicking off point, and I thought we were going to lock horns on that a little bit more. But
what about this? That your actions, going off the build. I was I don't. Shall we say the video that you sent me? I don't want to like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mean, some of this conversation was coming off of Dungeon Crafts.
Yes, Dungeon Crafts.
And shout out to Professor Dungeon Master, great channel.
I've just watched a couple of his stuff, and he's good, dude. I like him a lot.
100%. Anyone who's hearing it here, they've never even heard of like they're hearing it first from us because. We're definitely the guys who are just cluing them into that. No doubt you've already heard of Professor Dungeon Master and you already love his content over there. But big shout out to him.
Yeah, he made the comment that it's all an illusion, right? Because no matter what, you want the +5. It doesn't even matter what system you're using. You're going to be going for the +5 in your main stat and then your proficiency. Basically, no matter what system you're, it equates to that same idea. And he's saying it's a negative. And I'm seeing that as a positive.
Well, this might be
and I might be misinterpreting what I heard, but that's what I was hearing.
I was just going to say, just as you're saying that, I don't know that that the illusion of choice is a pejorative. I'm not sure that it inherently is. I think it's more an acknowledgement, and I'm not trying to.
That might be true.
I'm not trying to frame Dungeon Craft's take on it, but kind of, I think he's not wrong.
He's
clearly that's your point, or that's your, I should say, that's your goal is to achieve that,
right?
And so in that regard, it's not like by choosing a different class you actually have a different life path, a different goal that you're
still
striving
trying
towards.
to get that.
You're trying to get that same mechanical boon.
But I see that as a positive.
Well, I'm sure it's got two edges. I'm sure.
Okay. So what's your do you have a position on that?
Well, I can say that I think even if it was, one oddball class here, obviously the balance implications of having a nucleation point, which is you are just a total noob. You've never adventured. And you start picking. You start earning your class and working your way out from there. I mean, sign me up for the system where every one of those progression chains looks unique and different. Like, how cool would that be? Like, as a fighter, it's this unique experience of leveling through fighter, and you're, like, you may be, let's say the fighter really is your traditional stat block kind of, whereas a sorcerer, like, you would look at their sheet and go like, what the hell is this? I can't even read this sheet. It's that different. In reality, that's really probably what it should be. I mean, how different is it swinging a sword from channeling the arcane arts?
Right.
Obviously, you have to temper that with game designers trying to balance a system.
Yes, and that's what I think it is.
Yeah, but I think to his point, and I guess I would hold the same point, good or bad, the illusion that a fighter, when you strip away all of the glitz and the glam, all you have is the skeletal animatronics, weird, creepy Chuck E. Cheese kind of backdrop behind it. The number crunch is almost identical.
Yes.
And to some extent, it's an illusion that you're a fighter, and it's an illusion that they're a sorcerer. The spell book, I think, does help.
I was about to say
with
spell
that
book definitely helps.
Yeah,
we could do like fighter and rogue or something.
There are plenty of classes that are less different.
Right.
But so I think I kind of stand on the fence about it. I don't think it's inherently a bad thing, because I get that you have to try and find a balance that allows players to step into the shoes of the character they want to play without the damage you would do with that my alternate utopian system is you hand it to a community, and pretty soon the guides are coming out, and there's one class that is clearly
they
unbalanced.
Found that one combination, and then then no one else is going to be anything else.
Yeah. Well, and if they are like that, sets such fertile ground for an even more dangerous illusion of choice.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, like I said, I don't consider it a bad thing by any means. But I think from a game design standpoint, anybody who's just looking at the hard and fast numbers that isn't going like, I wouldn't mind if this was a little more different.
Well, I think, like you said, I think the spell book does that to a degree. I don't know. I just come back to the balance. Because, again, like you're saying, I'm not the best optimizer by any stretch of the imagination. But 5e is pretty well balanced, I feel. That yes. But, right now, we shit on Ranger. Everyone shits on Ranger. It's what everyone does. It's not that bad. And especially, go Gloomstalker. But, I mean, even just Ranger isn't that bad. Okay? But, we shit on it because we know.
But Ranger's that bad in comics.
Rangers is not that bad. Anyway, I'm not going to go because there are some really bad things about it, but it's really not. And we shit on it now when it's really quite well balanced. Really, it will hold up just fine. If you play a Ranger, you're going to have a good time. Nothing everything's fine. Imagine if you made that worse.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I think the damage you could do to a system in flying too close to the sun by going I'm gonna have this system where everything's so like I said, I get why they're structured the way that they are, and I think it's the lesser of two evils for sure.
I can't see those,
but I think that when you were first approaching that topic, it seemed that you were, here we go. No, it's,
3. There might be one more. I make no guarantees. Right. There should be a drinking game about that.
It's anytime Josh sneezes, pour a shot.
You're guaranteed.
You're gonna like this show a hell of a lot more. No, but I think that I got the impression that you were kind of approaching that topic as if the illusion of choice was inherently a bad thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I almost wish that we had framed this topic a little more broadly, just into the illusions we hold at the table, because I think there's many illusions that we perpetuate. I don't want to go down that road because we're too late. We're too far into this, but the idea that, like, we said it in the 5A video, like, so what if that is the case? I've never seen my players go like, it's just such an illusion here, as they're looking through all of the options, like,
right,
like, and I think that given enough time, though, I think that will bubble to the surface. If you made 1,000 characters, how many of them are truly going to be unique from one another in terms of?
Well, it wouldn't take that many, but yes.
Right. And but I think that there's certainly enough to play with there, and this I would say even extends beyond the 5th edition space to any options heavy system. Yeah, I think it's very likely. It's part of the design challenge of handing players a bunch of options that need to all maintain balance over time as new ones release. I have no idea how many people that are watching this. I haven't played Magic the Gathering in eons.
Gosh.
But I will say, like, when you consider the number of cards that are in circulation, and obviously for official play they limit those sets, but when you consider the amount of balance that has been because effectively every card could kind of be a feat, or could kind of be an ability, or could kind of, when you consider that there's, I'm gonna ballpark a number, but it's way wrong. This is how long I've been out of the game, but 30,000 maybe, something like that. It's probably way more than that now, but unique printings, like, that's a monumental task to try to keep all of those pieces in balance.
Yeah, no kidding.
The interesting thing about D&D is I actually think it's so lenient because it's a cooperative experience.
Yes.
If it was competitive, that shit would be rooted out like that
very quickly. Yes, sir. Yes.
And here's the other thing: is if it was competitive, how frequently would you ever not min-max?
Oh yeah, it's again, the survival is so huge. All it is you survive.
Yeah.
Not, hey, did I make some character? Did I discover who I was as a character? No, who gives a crap?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So I think there's that aspect.
It makes me sad because Magic the Gathering took off, man. You know what card game I was into?
Oh, dude, you're gonna spark the fucking comments of you're gonna go do it.
No.
Say it. No, say it.
No, all right.
Say it.
So he was into Magic, which I was into Star Trek: The Next Generation card game.
Right. And just for comments' sake, who's the best captain?
Okay, I will say.
I'll say you've been getting trounced, sir.
That's fine.
Brutally trounced.
That's fine. You believe wrongly all you want.
Oh, dude, you're pouring gas on that fire.
So I have read a little bit, and Picard, I'm sorry, Picard's number one. Cisco from Deep Space Nine, I like Cisco a lot. He's a human. He gets angry, but he's like...
Are we really going? Are we going here right now? Okay.
And someone recommended the Orville, and I've been watching it. I've only like 6 episodes in. I love that cat. I don't fucking know his name, but
Seth MacFarlane is his name.
I feel horrible now. Well, if you ever watch our actual plays,
Ryan Griffin.
I don't remember names at all.
Stewie.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
Captain from the Orville. All of those.
I actually really like him as a captain. But
so, how do you feel about Kirk? Dude, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not throwing any fuel on this fire. You're the one who's always throwing fuel on the fire.
I know.
You guys feel however you want about the various.
I think he's better than the Voyager captain. Like, I think underneath the Orville is Kirk. I'll put it in there, and then.
Oh, dude, you don't realize you don't realize the kerosene, the 55-gallon drum of kerosene you just dropped. I'm pivoting as rapidly as possible. We've been talking a bunch. All right, pretend that conversation never happened because I'm gonna have so many people in the comments.
Yeah, sorry, bud.
Just
You're the one who just
burning it to the ground.
You're the first person who responds to the comments. I might come in later, but yeah, you're the
after I've put all the fires out, you're gonna roast some marshmallows. No, I do want to pivot because in terms of and I think we've said quite a bit on kind of the character creation and the player side. I think. And I don't know that this was the original intention in the coining of the term, the illusion of choice, but it absolutely applies. And as with so many other videos, I think DMs should be considering illusion of choice can be a monster tool. And I want to emphasize can be a monster tool in a narrative first, story first game.
Okay.
I can think of many applications in which you might want to apply an illusion. An example that I was kind of laying out for you is we are, and when I say tool, I specifically mean a tool that is utilized for the maintenance of pacing at your table. That maybe you've created this awesome, you've got this awesome dungeon. Your players for the last 3 sessions have been slogging their way, working their way, toward that big boss battle. And we've talked about in another episode about the, I'm sorry, I'm confused. On DM and the PM, I was talking about one of the jobs.
Different shows, dude. Get us together.
But I was talking about one of the jobs of the DM, or at least in that narrative first space, keeping their finger on the pulse of the table, and kind of creating a feedback loop where your players every session are kind of telling you through their energy level, through their engagement, what they're wanting out of that session, the next session. And so the example that I was talking about with you is, let's say you've been fighting your way towards this boss.
Yeah.
And maybe the series of encounters that I had laid out were a little more aggressive than I anticipated, and you really got the tar beat out of you.
Stupid dice.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's players too. It could
no,
be, it could
it's
be players.
only the dice. I'm always
it's
perfect.
The DM fucked up, or I rolled poorly.
we are basically blameless.
But like I could see where maybe in my original schematic, I went. I think there's they've got 2 more rooms of very potential combat or traps or who knows what. But the finger on the pulse of the table is that these last 3 sessions have just ground them down.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people, I think, who are going to take issue with this framing of the illusion
I
of
just
choice.
I went to war with the Star Trek
That's
people.
true. Actually, that's the perfect time to bring it up. No, but I think the idea that you guys, maybe I in my original schematic know that you've got 2 more rooms to walk through, and I just go like, where you are by way of attrition, where your abilities have been worn down to, your health, this is going to be a really good, like challenging boss confrontation. Maybe those 2 rooms don't exist. Maybe you open that door and the boss is there. And that might not sound like the illusion of choice. Well, say there's 3 doors. And, maybe I just go like thematically, narratively, we need some contrast here. We need to know that this is done. We need to, and like I said, I know that there's going to, and this is why I frame this as the narrative first, the story first, because I think in a real sandbox game, where there's almost no use for it, narrative or from a DM perspective, but I think to say that there aren't times where you look around your table and go like, they need a fight right now, or they don't need another fight right now.
Right.
And you might know precisely what's behind that next door. And you go like,
hopefully as a DM, you have a somewhat good idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, you should know what's behind that next door, but you might in real time decide that, and that's the illusion part of it. I think is there are times where you might strip. There have been what I'll call sub objectives in aspects of our game that as you're moving through it, it's just becoming more and more obvious to me that the sub objective is not going to have the importance I thought it would. And that sub objective may be carried through 3 rooms of a dungeon or something like that, 4 rooms of a dungeon. And I'll just pull them out. I mean, and the thing is that like how much that falls into the illusion of choice. But it's the illusion. It's the illusion that, again, the second that you make it, do you want what's behind door number 1, door number 2, door number 3?
Right.
Well, it doesn't matter what you pick.
Matter
It's all boss
same
battle. And I mean, that truly is the DM side of illusion of choice. And I will say, even in a narrative, story forward game, kind of what has become kind of the modern ethos 5th edition style game. That is a tool that you should wield with the utmost caution and respect, because you are removing your player's agency. You absolutely are. There's no 2 ways about it. And I like, this is why I would say it's not, here's the deal. There's 3 doors in front of them. And no matter which door they pick,
it's going to be what you want.
It's what I want. Well, why not just make 1 door then? Like, why have 3 doors? You know what I mean? Like, like you have created this farce. And this is why I say, because I think there are many people out there, both in the 5th edition space and in other editions, other systems, who really one of the big joys they get as a DM is dungeon design. They love building out these intricate dungeon spaces. And when you've done that, and when you're married to that, there's no way in hell you're,
especially if you like handmade the model and everything, and like painted everything.
Well, doubly that. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, you see some of the people just do immaculate dungeon work. And I can imagine someone who is that invested in. They're hearing what I'm saying and going like, that's utter blasphemy. And I respect the hell out of that. I'm not, like I said, it is a ripcord in the most urgent of situations, but I try to outline on this channel tools at our disposal, not tools you should use regularly, or even it may be a tool you should never use.
No, I think you've been saying that only do what you say all the time.
Well, obviously, do what I say because it's the best choice.
Yes.
No, but
from the player's side, I hear what you're saying, for sure. Honestly, like if you're saying like, hey, I recognize I'm listening to my players, I'm changing my world to make sure that my players are having a good time. That sounds nice to me.
Well, I think again that is the line drawn is, should worlds be agnostic of the characters in them, even the protagonists, or. And I think this really helps to carve out some of the chasm between that old school style play, which really I think is a character agnostic space.
Yes.
But again, the reason I frame it as there are absolutely times where you've got that metronome going,
right,
and you go, you know what, I it's 3 rooms away, but what's gonna light this session on fire is. They open this next door and it's the kennel masters. It's the kennel and the kennel master. That encounter is just going to be like, I mean, so it's not always removing content or adding content. It might be even moving content around sometimes. It all clearly falls under the illusion of choice. And like I said, I advocate that with absolute caution because I don't think it's something to be utilized lightly.
Well, to me, it sounds a big difference is what is the motivation behind this illusion of choice? If your motivation behind it is like, well, I need these guys to do this thing because that's what I want, and it doesn't matter what path they're going to do, and that's a selfish thing,
right?
So that I don't want that could be very, very harmful. Versus if the motivation is I recognize what my players are desiring and what they're needing, and they need this. Then the motivation is a giving one.
Right. Well, I would also say sometimes what the players need is a bigger challenge than what you had. I mean, like I was laying out a scenario where you've got the shit kicked out of you, and now
Right.
I'm recognizing you're not going to be good for 2 more.
Right.
But alternatively, it could also be that you waltzed through the early portion of my dungeon. I went like, holy crap, I gotta like, sometimes what the players need is to not be as intact as they are when they get to the boss. And so there's that aspect of the illusion as well.
Yes.
I have a feeling I'm going to hear comments on this portion of the conversation.
Right.
And I really do want to hear them, because I want to hear, I will say, actually, this is not a practice that I engage in, but I can see why it falls into the category of this topic. I can think of one instance definitively where I just shucked, and it was specifically a sub-objective there was a whole kind of parallel, you can call it a side quest if you want, but
Sure.
a parallel quest. And it was rapidly becoming apparent that it wasn't going to be meaningful given the meaning that was being found in the main thread that you guys were pulling. And I just went like, I'm not going to muddy these waters. It had nothing to do with scaling difficulty or anything like that. But I lopped an entire wing off of my dungeon just because I went the pace that you guys were on, you guys were like, and I just went, narratively speaking, this is only going to serve to derail that energy.
Yeah.
And I just went, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'd love to hear the comments from people out there. That I guess that would specifically be DMs. Do you feel about your dungeons the way I do about dice? Like I'm not about fudge. Like, I'll never fudge my dungeon. If there's a room there, there's a room there, and that's just is what it is. No matter, players be damned.
Yeah.
And like I said, I respect the hell out of that. I think it's just a different way of a different level of attachment to that.
And us as players, we honestly don't know what's going on.
Well, so that's a big. The reason I was talking about wielding that with just absolute delicacy, maybe not wielding it all. It might be like the behind the glass, like you break during an emergency kind of.
Right.
And like I said, I'm not sure I can think of a time in which I have utilized it, but I can think of circumstances in which I might want to, and I'd rather have that tool floating around in my mind. But a really good example, and this is something that D&D wouldn't necessarily suffer from, but a really good example of how that comes back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
Is the Mass Effect ending. The end of the Mass Effect trilogy, what I'm going to call the Three Colors ending.
Yeah. I've never beaten. I've beaten 1 and 2, but I never played 3.
Okay. 3. Well, I'll say mainly because I played like a stupid amount of multiplayer in 3, but I
remember. I think we even played some.
I was smashing things with Krogan.
Yeah, that was fucking baller.
But what I'll say is, when you have a franchise that, like Mass Effect, that was toting from square one, this massive world that you were going to shape and have influence in, and they really leaned into this, your character's decisions are going to matter.
Yeah.
When you get to the end, huge spoiler here. If you
that game is
it's old enough that I don't feel bad on spoiling it. But if you're actively playing through it, I also don't want to spoil it for you. So if you're actively playing through it for the first time, this is going to be a spoiler for you. Maybe click away now. But to have all of your actions over the course of 3 games, importing your character, moving,
right.
Boil down to effectively a decision that is literally color coded, and then like a series of cutscenes of like, your decision wiped out all organic life, your decision wiped out synthetic technology, and like,
I didn't know any of this. You just destroyed Vestas.
Well, you should have clicked away. Sorry, but no, but it's just the deal where that is a perfect example. Now, in Dungeons and Dragons, it doesn't suffer from the ailment of I can load up another character, play all the way through, and make a different decision at the end, or even just load up my last save, and make a decision. But if you want to understand how dangerous wielding that is as a DM, look at the reaction to people who loved that franchise, invested hours and hours, game after game, playing through that franchise, only to be handed the classic 3-door option where behind every door was essentially the same room.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good breakdown of how bad it feels as a player. And certainly, I actually think how bad it feels as a DM when you so blatantly rob them of the opportunity to make a decision that is of their own they're manifesting their own decisions to finish a story or begin a story or anywhere in between. So I think the illusion of choice on the DM side, like I said, I try to outline any of the stuff we talk about as here it is in its tool form, so you can grab it should you need it. But I really think that's one of the ones that I would almost caution more than almost any other.
And I want to add to that, because God, that would suck if ever I did that. I loaded it up and then like, oh, it's the same. You're saying it's like the cutscenes are just like slight variations on the cutscenes.
It's literally the characters who are in the cutscenes, because you know synthetics and organics, and it's just like, well, did you condemn all of your organic friends to die? All of your synthetic friends to die? Or like I said, the green ending. I don't actually remember the specific color coordination. One of them is like the you were so good that you managed to, it's like more of a symbiosis kind of a, but it really, it's more a matter of, it's a feels bad.
Yeah. Well, because I originally was like, well, I like 10 minutes ago was like, I can't see why it'd be bad that the DM is changing it on behalf of their players, that they're taking into account what the players are doing. But I was thinking, I don't know if we hinted at it, that oftentimes players don't know what they kind of hinted at it. We don't know what we want. Like, for example, if we're like, oh man, I don't know if they can handle this next challenge. I don't know. Throw it at us. See, can we overcome? Can we make this happen? Maybe we have to run away. Maybe we're going to have, but that, if we always come and always winning all the time and not being super challenged, I mean super challenged, where we're like, we're on the doorsteps of death here.
Right.
Like you need those moments.
Yeah.
So like, I was kind of like, yeah, just change whatever you want. I'm like, I don't know if I would, because you are really hindering your players exploring all their options.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt the side effect is you've robbed them of their ability to make a bad decision.
Right.
And that's a big part of the game, is allowing them to do that. And I would want to emphasize specifically in that context, I think it's a far better motivation to do something like that for narrative pacing reasons than for mechanical reasons.
Okay.
Because not only are you robbing them of that next room, which might have, whatever, you're robbing them of all of the good and bad decisions they made up to that point. Because maybe the reason they're hurting is because of bad decisions.
Yeah.
Maybe the reason they're hurting is because, maybe they took the hard road because it was the right thing to do. You robbed them of the RP decisions they made in that moment.
Yep.
Like I said, this really, I mean, I don't think I've ever caveated it on this show. I try to frame things in terms of like DM tools. These are a lever you could pull. Just pointing and saying there's a lever you can pull. Think of it as a big red button. That is not that is not like, hey, you should use this regularly. You should always do it. No, I mean, like I said, some of them could really be damaging to your table, to your campaign, to the trust you hold with your player. I mean, but when we were talking about this, I couldn't help but think about, like, are there times in which a DM could utilize as a tool the illusion of being able to have a decision.
Yeah.
And the answer is absolutely they could. Yes.
Yes.
Should they that needs to be a table by table decision, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I just thinking like the negative side of it, but yeah, I think it's like you're saying, I think an interesting tool. And I don't know. This is interesting. This is a good conversation.
Yeah, I think illusion of choice. Again, I think it's something that it has to be baked in. The more. I'm not sure I want to use complex. I'm going to use it, but I'm not sure it's the preferable word here. But the more complex a system would be to at least to balance.
Yeah.
I think the more prone it is to suffering from the illusion of choice, because, like I said, I might want to hand you tons of options,
Right.
but the lack of balance within those options is ultimately what is going to guide players towards a more optimized set of options versus a less optimized.
And I'd say
if that's their prerogative.
Yeah, and I'd say the lethality of 5e kind of takes it away, except for like feats, because feats are so where you have to choose between ASIs or feats, and you only get to do it once every 4 levels, or fighters and rogues can break that a little bit, but that really limits your choice.
Right.
Yeah. So I can see that for sure. But I still think like without that, you need that balance. Otherwise, like especially when you have such a widely popular game as 5e D&D, like.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think again, in lesser of two evils, no doubt.
Yeah,
that's what I feel. If you could choose between having a reasonably balanced system that has all the trappings of illusion of choice, or a system that is truly wide open on choice, and here's the thing I'll say is it's a little counterintuitive. I actually think the solution is to just give them fewer choices. Because, and I think this is kind of the hallmark of true, both rules light and options light systems, is that if there's no rules, if there's no specific rules for doing the thing you want to do, you just do it. You just say, I want to do this. And there's no power, there's no ability, there's no, and I think that when you kind of, by stripping away the options, you actually, like, let's say there was a no option system. You're just Josh, and you do whatever you want. Like you say, I want to pick up a sword, I want to pick up a bow, and it's classless. Do you have fewer options because of that? I mean, you, in some regards, you could argue you have more options. They're just not laid out for you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, and that's why, like I said, I really wanted to outline this as an options heavy spaces are the trappings. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with options heavy systems. I mean, 5e is one of them. There are many out there, but I think it's symptomatic. It's just kind of part of the design that hasn't been overcome yet of those types of systems, that they have to kind of wear some of that illusion. Though I think I like your framing on it, that I don't know that you can lay that illusion at the feet of the system. Sure, they've given you a bunch of feats, and some of them are like, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's you as a player.
Yeah,
like
especially in 5e,
take it or don't. It's an option. It's still a choice.
Yes, it's still a choice. Especially in 5e, where you don't do the most optimized thing. You can still probably do. You'll be okay.
Right.
But yeah,
I don't know that I got a huge amount more.
No, I think we've done it. We've. I don't know. I feel like we've reached an ending point. I'm sure there's lots of you in the comments.
There's so much to be said on every topic that we do. There's always so much.
There
more
might
to
be many a flame more on this conversation.
I forgot, dude. You just reminded me.
You're welcome.
Of all of the.
Hey, let them have it, guys.
Captain of all of the Star Trek Captain rep that I'm.
Why is it such? Anyway, it is what it is.
It's no. Aside from your favorite captain and
every other episode, I got to throw that in there.
Yeah, I think it's keeping it going. It's feeding the algorithm anyway. So, no, but I would love to hear really any thoughts you have, because illusion of choice is really kind of this. I think you can be a love it or hate it. I don't like a system that has illusion of choice. I don't mind that it's there. I love systems that are have all sorts of options, even if they're not all good options.
Right.
You know, I want to hear, but I know I'm going to hear, and I would love to hear on the DM side. Are there aspects of the quote unquote illusion of choice that you think are relevant to running your games? And the ones that I laid out, you know, how do those manifest or not manifest in your own games? I'd love to hear any of that. So
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, why don't you just take us on out there, brother? Unless you've got something, you got something fancy pants. Oh,
I got nothing fancy pants.
we've got zero fancy pants here today. So Mr. Wines is taking us out.
The world is yours.